Okay, let's create the new project. I have IntelliJ ID with me, so I'm gonna click create new project. Click on it. Once you did that will show you the new pop-up window with available options. So I'm going to select the option called Spring Initializer, which will enable us to create the Spring Boot application. So in the group ID, I'm gonna mention the group ID actually com dot Dinesh Krish. Then artifact ID is going to be NER application. So when I say NER, named entity recognizer hyphen application. Remaining option you can leave it as it is. If you want to be, for example, you can give a more description about your project. I'm gonna say NER example with Spring Boot. Why? So given next, then you can see there are a lot of modules available in the Spring Boot. So the model which I'm considering as of now, it's actually the web module. So select the web module, and then I want a web module to be added into my project, as well as for the template engine I want to use theme life, because we are planning for a UI for this application, right? So I would like to go with the theme leaf template engine. So give a next. So give a finish. Okay, cool. We successfully created the new project. So here you can see one Maven Spring Boot application is created called NER application. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, just go to source folder. Now you can see the Spring Boot main class actually created. So now since we are trying to perform natural entity recognizer along with the Spring Boot application, right? So obviously we have to add a dependency to our project. When I say dependency, we have to add the Core NLP dependency to our project, right? So to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a dependency to our Spring Boot application. So the dependency perspective, we have to add these two dependency. One is actually from one is actually edu.stanford.nlp group ID. Then artifact should be Stanford-core NLP. Then same. Okay, it's the same we added, and then we are saying classifier equals model. So these two dependencies should added. These two dependencies should be added in our project. Okay, once that is done, okay, I think we are good to develop our application. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually going to create a new class. I'm gonna call this class actually NER controller. Okay, but before going to create a class, I'm going to create a package. Inside this package, I'm going to create one more package called controller. Okay, in the controller package, I'm going to create a class called NER controller. So what exactly this controller is going to do in the sense? Okay, the controller is going to get a text from the client, and then it's going to analyze the text, and then it's going to perform the NER against the test that we passed. Okay, so that is the whole idea about this controller. So obviously we have to mark this controller as REST controller, right? And then we have to configure request mapping. So I'm going to configure the request mapping by passing the value should be slash API slash version 1, right? So that is my first version 1 API, so that we are trying to do. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one new method. I'm going to call this method actually NER. The method actually NER. Okay, so method actually going to take two argument. One is actually this input, I would say that is the actual text that we're going to analyze, and then one more input actually the type. Okay, so I would say type. So when I say type, I want to create a enum. Okay, so since we don't have a enum, we're going to create the enum. So I want to pass the type. So both has to be final. Okay, I don't want to change it once we received it. Okay, and then I want this method to return the list of string. Okay, so import the list. Then I want this method to be available publicly. Okay, so we'll create the type enum. So I'm going to create the new package. I'm going to call this package actually kind of model. Inside this model package, I'm going to create what? The new enum. Okay, the enum name is going to be what? Type, as I mentioned. Okay, so we created the enum. Okay, we will decide what should come inside this type enum. Okay, let me import this type. Now it has to be import from what? com.NER application .model package, right? So that is actually got imported. So we are kind of good now. So obviously we have to return something, right? So as of now, I'm trying to return, okay, the null. Okay, we will write our logic here. So what is the whole idea? So we need to get what? Input from the user, from the client, or whatever you can say that. Okay, so and then we want to get what? Type. Okay, so I want this input from the request body. Okay, and then I want this type should from what? The request parameter. I would like to what? Pass this type value in the query parameter. Okay, we will see how to do that. And then I want to annotate this particular a method, actually what? Post mapping. So I want it to be what? Post mapping. Okay, and then in the request mapping, I'm gonna say the value for this one is going to be /NER. That's it. Okay, the idea is very simple. We have a method which is going to return what? The list, and then the method actually taking two arguments. One is input, the text input text that we're going to analyze, and then what? The type that you want to extract. So when I say type, for example, consider if I'm passing what? Some text, the text actually what? City, name, person, and then what? A country, then email address. I want to extract only that specific information from the given text. I want to return it as what? List. That is the overall idea, right? So for our application, so we so far what? Introduce the new method. In order to perform what? The NER, obviously we have to set up what? The pipeline. When I say pipeline, we need to configure few things. Okay, and then we need to use what is same in order to what? Perform the NER. Okay, let's see how to do that. Okay, I'm going to create the new package. I'm going to call this package actually what? A core. Okay, inside this package, I'm going to create a class called what? Pipeline. Okay, I'm going to call this class actually what? Pipeline. So basically this class is going to be a singleton class where I would like to get an instance of what? Sanford Core NLP instance, right? To do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to introduce what? Few variable. I'll say static properties. I'll say what? Properties. Okay, then private static, I'll say what? String. Okay, properties name. Okay, the properties name should be, okay, in order to perform the NER, we have to add a few properties. We have to enable few properties in the Core NLP. I'll tell you what are all those. So one is actually what? Tokenize, SS split, that is a sentence split, then POS, parts of speech, then lemmatization, then NER. Okay, you need what? In order to perform the NER, these are all what? Dependent properties that we have to enable in the Core NLP pipeline, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create what? One more static a reference variable. So that is what? Sanford Core NLP. I'm going to call what? Sanford Core NLP. Okay, so here I want to make this constructor actually what? Private. So make the constructor actually what? Private. So obviously we did all these things in our previous videos as well. So static, right? In the static block, what I want to do, I want to what? Create an instance for this properties. So properties equal to new properties, right? Then I want to set annotators to this property, right? So the property instance is creator. we have to what set a property, right? So properties dot, I'm gonna have a method called what a property, set property. Inside the set property method, I'm gonna pass what annotators, comma, properties name. That's all, right? So we created the property. Now we have to pass this property to what our Sanford Core NLP instance, right? I mean maybe constructor, in order to create what the instance of the Sanford Core NLP, right? Since we want it to be what the singleton, so I'm going to create what public static Sanford Core NLP. Okay, I'm going to say what get instance. Okay, so here I'm going to say what if the Sanford Core NLP is equal to null. If it is not available already, that time what I'm going to do, I'm going to create what Sanford Core NLP equal to, I'm creating the new instance of what Sanford Core NLP by passing what the properties that we have. Okay, we did that. Now what I'm going to do, if it is not a null, always I'll return what the Sanford Core NLP. So since it's a static, so obviously what we can get what always one instance if it is initialized to what at least one time, right? So that's a core idea behind it. So now let's focus on what how to use this Sanford Core NLP instance in our NER controller in order to perform what the named entity recognizer, right? So to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to introduce what the reference variable of Sanford Core NLP. Okay, I want it to be what auto wired, so that I'm going to say what auto wired. But if you look at it, it's actually what showing some error, right? That means what we want this class this object to be injected in order to perform in our method, in order to use them in our method. But it says that I can't inject this object because this particular pipeline class has to be what service. Okay, you have to make it as what you have to make it as the service annotator. And apart from that, who exactly going to what create this object for you, right? So this is the method who's responsible to create what the Sanford Core NLP instance for us, right, in a singleton basis, right? So in order to do that, what you have to do, you have to annotate it as what bean. Okay, I'm going to name it as what name equal to I'm going to say what Sanford Core NLP. That's it. When you did this, probably you can see what there is no error. So now this object can be what auto wired during the Spring Boot startup, right? So now we are kind of fine to use this instance in order to perform what NER in our application, right? So to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to simply what perform core document. Okay, code document equal to new code document, right? In the code document, I'm going to pass what the input text that we have, because that is the text that we want to analyze, right? So here what I want to do, I need a Sanford instance, right? So we have a Sanford instance already. So Sanford instance dot, I'm going to do what annotate, right, core document that we have, right? After this, what we have to do, so once we have a text, right, the text should be converted to what the tokens. Then the same token can be analyzed in order to get what the NER, right, the named entity recognizer. So to do that, what I'm going to do, core document dot, we have a method called tokens, which is going to return you what the list of code label, right? So I'm going to create what one local variable. I'm going to call it as what list of core labels. Okay, so I'm going to call it as what core labels. That's it. Now let's include what type into our enum, right, that we created. So go to the type. So I'm going to what add a few type. I'm going to say what type called what person. In the text I want to extract only the person. Okay, then I want to extract the city, then I want to extract the state, R, province, country, email, then title. Okay, so these are all actually available in the Core NLP library. That means what, you can extract the person from the text, city, state or province, country, email, and title. So you can extract more. You have few more, but as part of this tutorial, I'm considering only what, these types. Okay. The thing is what, here I'm going to say what, city. In the province, I'm going to pass what, a state or province. Okay. I'm going to pass what, country, email. Then finally, the title is nothing but what, job title. So finally, I'm going to say what, title. So here, since what, we are trying to pass string as an argument, so obviously we need a constructor, right? So actually what, I'm creating the constructor called, type. So in the constructor, I'm passing what, string type. I want to set this type to the instance variable. Since we don't have an instance, so variable, we have to create that. Private string type. And then we need a method to what, get the name name of this type. I'm going to call this method actually what, get name. So which is generally going to return a string. Yes, obviously this method is public method. Okay. So here what I'm going to do, return type that we have. Okay, very simple. We created the type. Okay, we added all the types into our enum, right? Now let's what, write up one more method to extract only this type, right, from the text. Okay, so basically what we're trying to do, so whatever input we pass, consider that is the text, whatever type we pass, for example, if I want to extract only the person, in the text I want to extract only the person name as a list. So that's my whole idea, right? So in order to do that, of course, I'm going to create one private method, because this can be a common method. List of string it's going to return. So basically that is a list of a collected list, right? Collected list from the given text. So I'm going to pass what, the core label list. Okay, I'm going to call core labels, and apart from that I'm going to pass what, the type that we receive from the client, right? So it's going to return. So since we are getting this core labels, I want to perform what, stream from Java 8 API, stream, and then it's going to be filter. In the filter, I'm going to say what, core label we have, right? So type that we receive, from the type I want to get the name. Okay, if it is equals, ignore case, right? Equal ignore case, core label, let me maximize the screen, core label dot get. Okay, here I'm going to pass, in order to what, perform the NER, we have to use what, we have to pass this a class, right? Okay, what is the class? Core annotation, annotations dot name the entity tag annotation class. Okay, dot class. So since it will give us what, the core label, from the core label we want only the actual text, right? So I'm going to use what, one more a stream API method called what, map. In the core label I want to get only what, original text, not all of them. I want to collect it as what, collect it as what, collected dot to list. Okay, now what we're trying to do basically, we have this core label. In the core label we are trying to what, perform the named entity recognizer. Okay, we want to filter only what, the type that we pass. If it is a person, that will fetch as a person. If it is a city, it will fetch what, city. And then it will give you the core label object. From the core label object, in order to get the actual text, you have to call this method. So I'm calling using what, the map function. Then finally I'm collecting them as a list. I want to return same. Very simple. Now what I want to do, I want to call this method, right? So now if you look at it, consider if you have a city, for example Berlin, it's available 2 times in your text, but we want to show only once, in a sense, probably I can suggest you to what, return a set instead of what, list, right? Set will remove the duplication, right? So I'll call this method, collect list, where I can pass what, core labels as well as what, type that we receive, right? So in this case, I have to what, change the return type. Instead of list, I'm going to, make it as what, set. whenever we receive what text, and then when we receive the type, we are passing the text to what core document, then we are annotating that core document, then we are from the core document we are getting what we are tokenizing the string, we are passing the tokenized list to what this method in order to perform the NER. In the NER I want to retrieve only what the type, specific type. So that is finally going to give us a list. The list may have the duplication, so I'm passing this list into what set, so that we can avoid the duplication. So finally we are returning set to what our clients when they call this method.